Ducts and pipe layouts share similar modification tools in Revit, just slight differences. In this video, we'll explore some Revit tools for modifying pipes and pipe layouts. So open the file you used in the previous video or adjusting ducts and pipes in the chapter 3 exercise files folder. So at this point, launch Revit, navigate to the exercise files. From the chapter 3 folder, open this file, adjusting ducts and pipes, which I have here. Open. Then open the default 3D view. Next, tap the tab key once on your keyboard and select a pipe layout, and you will see some modification tools on the modify ribbon. The first to have is analytical connections, and this lets you to connect to components and equipment analytically without drawing an actual pipe. So this is useful at early design stages when you're still playing around with your design. Let's say, for example, we've only drawn the main branches for these pipe networks. We can easily use that. We'll pick one of the pipes and we can connect into the fan core unit using the analytical connections. So it will draw the analytical pipes without drawing the physical pipes, and it will still retain the system properties. Next, you have the routing solutions, and this will give you multiple alternatives for the pipe layout, similar to the generate layout too. So we want to use this tool cautiously as we likely need to adjust the outcome. Next, you have the justify tool here, which lets you to configure the eccentricity of the pipe layout. So by default, it is concentric, which means that it's horizontally and vertically justified to the center. Next, you have the slope tool, which is for sloping pipe systems like sanitary. So it lets you to configure the slope value for the layout. But ideally, you want to set the slopes while laying the pipes for such system. Let's say, for example, I want to create a pipe for a sloping system. So when I set the system type to sanitary, for example, then I want to come here and set the slope and then impute the slope value while I'm drawing out the pipe, because changing the slope later might be a bit tedious. The next tool I have here is change type, and this lets you to swap the pipe layout to a different pipe type, which overrides the routing preferences with the new type. So for example, this particular layout I have here, the pipe type is hot water. So if I want to change this to chilled water, for example, I can simply use the change type tool and choose chilled water, and it will override the properties for this one. Then the next tool I have is reapply type. As the name suggests, this will reapply the current pipe definitions to the layout, and this is useful if you've manually made some changes after laying out the pipe, or if there are some updates to the routing preferences that you want to push out to the existing layout. Then you have add insulation, which lets you to add insulation to the selected pipes. So upon clicking the button, you will specify the insulation type and the thickness, and you can also edit type and define the insulation material. Now, after adding the insulation, the adjacent two buttons will become active, which are edit insulation and remove insulation. So you can use them to edit or remove the insulation from the selected pipes. Now, if I go to a floor plan, you will see that the pipe insulation looks quite different. So I don't really need this. I'll just remove insulation from here. Now, when you select a pipe segment, not the entire layout this time, you can always switch the type from the type selector drop down from here. So I can just pick this particular pipe segment and I can switch from hot water to another pipe type entirely. And you can also adjust the layout by moving a portion. You can move the pipe itself or a pipe fitting or a component or whatever, depending on what you want to adjust. For example, if I select this elbow here, I can use it to move the two pipes that are connected to it. See that as I adjust the elbow, they also adjust the pipes. And also when you select a fitting, you will see icons. For example, when I select this elbow, you see this plus icon. You might see minus, rotate, flip, and whatnot, depending on the fitting type and the nature of the layout. So for example, I can click on this plus icon and this elbow will switch to a T, and I can use this to continue my connection. And when I select this again, I can click the minus icon to switch this from a T to an elbow. So depending on the scenario, you can always use that to fast track your modeling. Also, you can use the modify trim command to connect pipes. So I have this pipe coming from here and stop here. I can either select the pipe and drag it to meet this other pipe, or I can use the modify trim tools. If I go to the modify ribbon, I can use the trim extend tool to, connect this to meet this, and Revit to handle the remaining connections for me. Also, during the pipe run, you can use the space bar to inherit the size and elevation from the originating pipe. So when I'm drawing the pipe, I can just hold down the space bar and it will take it off from the originating pipe. Sometimes as well, you can also just click this inherit elevation and inherit size. And when I draw a pipe, it automatically inherits the properties of that pipe from here. You cannot change the system properties of a pipe layout unlike a duct layout. So for example, if I have this duct layout here, that is supply air, if I connect a return air to it, you notice that the entire layout will change. But for a pipe layout, when you do something like that, for example, here I have, this is a hot water return system. When I draw a pipe with, let's say, chilled water return, and I connect it to this existing pipe layout, you notice that it doesn't change the system, it retains its own system. And that's because for pipe system, you can have loops, you can have secondary loops within a hydraulic network, which we'll still look at later in this course. So these are just some tools that are available in Revit for adjusting pipe layouts. And as you can see, they are similar to that of ducts, just slight differences. So now you can modify pipes and duct layouts in your Revit projects. And in the following video, we'll add mechanical control devices for the HVAC system.